Riichi Mahjong is by far my favorite game, and I've finally managed to get my friends hooked on it.
This is a really bad discard. I did this last game.
It might not be though.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, that's it.
But in the process of teaching people for the first time, I think I caused a lot of confusion. Here's how I would learn with my friend group if I could start over. In this video, I'll take you through 4 levels where you can have fun with Riichi right away without anyone needing to be an expert, and work your way all the way up to keeping score and playing with all the rules. But before that, here's the quick pitch to see if you might enjoy Riichi. Mahjong is a 4-player game played with tiles where players draw and discard to try and build winning hands. And if you don't have enough people, there are modifications you can make to play with 3 or even 2 people. There are many local variations of the game, but the one I know and love is Riichi, or Japanese Mahjong. It has a great balance of strategy and luck, and new players can have fun and win hands even against experienced players. But there's always something new to learn to get better at the game. It's a game where sometimes you play aggressively, and sometimes you hold back and dodge giving your opponent their winning tile. You might go all out for a risky high-scoring hand, or go on a win streak to claw your way back from last place in the final round. There's also just something fun about playing a game with tiles, and it's a great game to get your friends around the table. If that sounds fun, let's get into it and you'll have what you need to start playing. To play Mahjong, you just need a set of tiles. Any Chinese or Japanese set will work, you just might have some extra tiles you won't use. For Riichi, you use 136 tiles, and they're split into 2 categories, suits and honors. There are 3 suits: characters, dots, and bamboo, each with tiles numbered 1 through 9. The honor tiles are not numbered and consist of 4 winds, east, south, west, and north, and 3 dragons, white, green, and red. So that's 34 unique tiles, and there are 4 of every tile, giving us 136. Recognizing the tiles is pretty easy for most tiles, but you can also get sets with numbers and letters like these, which can be really useful when starting out or teaching others. It doesn't take too long to start recognizing the tiles without the numbers though, and I'll link some great cheat sheets I found if you're trying to learn without numbered tiles. The dots and bamboo suits have their corresponding number of dots or bamboo on the tile, with the one of bamboo usually being a bird. The dragons are typically white or white with a rectangle, green, and red respectively. For the winds, east kind of looks like a window, west I can kind of see a W, north resembles a backwards N to me, and south is the other one, or it kind of opens down to the south. The character tiles are the ones people usually have trouble with starting out. You only need to look at the top black characters, and these are just the numbers 1 through 9 written in Chinese. 1, 2, and 3 are easy, 4 looks like 4 vertical lines, 5 kind of looks like a 5, and 6 through 9 you'll probably just need to memorize. But after a few games referencing a cheat sheet to look up the tiles you don't know, you'll have them down. And that's all you need to play. Well, that and 2 6-sided dice. Sets often come with some other useful stuff, but if you've got the tiles, you'll be able to play. I'll talk a little later about what options there are if you're looking to buy a set. In Riichi Mahjong, the ultimate goal is to have the most points at the end of the game. Everyone starts with a certain amount of points, and players play a series of hands where points are paid back and forth when people win. To win a hand, you have to be the first player to make 4 sets in a pair by drawing and discarding tiles. A set can be a 3 of a kind, or a sequence of 3 numbered tiles in the same suit. A pair is 2 of the exact same tile. So a winning hand might look something like this. Now let's learn how to set up the game so we can play our first hand. For the sake of being able to come back and reference this video, I'm going to show the full setup. You might have a question about why we do this or that, but if you do it this way, you'll be good all the way through level 4. But I'll also put a quick setup example at the end of this section you can use for your first games if you want. Someone shuffle 4 of the wind tiles face down. Have the other players pick a tile, then the person who shuffled. Sit at the table like this based on the wind you got. You'll notice right away the order of the winds doesn't match what you're used to seeing on a map. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that originates from Chinese astronomy, because it's what the cardinal directions look like if you were looking at the sky. I think it's also just the order the cardinal directions are typically said in Chinese. You play going counterclockwise, east, south, west, then north, and the east player is always dealer. Knowing what your seat wind is important, so it can be nice to have a compass like this, or even something as simple as a piece of cardboard can help too. Give the tiles a good shuffle, then make sure they're all flipped over and give a more gentle shuffle. Each player builds a wall in front of them 17 long and 2 high, then pushes them to the center to make a square. The dealer, east, rolls 2 dice, and counts that amount counterclockwise starting with themselves to pick the player that will break the wall. This compass has the numbers on it as well. That person counts the same number rolled on the dice from the right of their wall and creates a little break. East takes the next 4 tiles. Then everyone takes 4 tiles going clockwise until everyone has 12. Then East takes the first and third from the top row, and the other players take 1 more. That's the same thing as everyone drawing 1 more and East drawing an extra. East should have 14 tiles, and everyone else should have 13. Then back where we broke the wall, flip over the 3rd tile on the top and move this tile down. Then everyone can look at their tiles, organize them by suit, and put them in order. And we're ready to go. If you want a quick setup for your first games, everyone just sit at the table and pick someone to be East, the dealer. Shuffle up the tiles and everyone builds a wall in front of themselves, 17 long and 2 high. And push them forward to make a square. Start at the right side of the wall in front of the dealer and have them take 4 tiles. Then everyone else take 4 in clockwise order until everyone has 12. Everyone take 1 more tile to make 13, and the dealer takes 1 extra for 14. Then everyone can look at their tiles and sort them. For your first game, as long as you ended up with some walls and the dealer has 14 tiles and everyone else has 13, you're good. I wrote up a checklist for those steps in the description. Time to play. In level 1, we'll get the basic flow of the game, get comfortable building winning hands, and learn why it's called Riichi. If you remember, East has 1 extra tile, so East starts the game by discarding a tile in front of them. Then, going counterclockwise, the next player will draw a tile from the wall where we stopped dealing, then discard a tile. It can be one from their hand or the one they drew. Tiles are discarded left to right in front of each player in rows of 6, so it's clear who discarded each tile and when. Each player is trying to use the tiles they draw to get closer to having 4 sets, triplets or sequences, and a pair. So what does that look like from a player's perspective? I think it's really helpful to learn a little simple strategy before building your first winning hands, so let's take a look at an example with some numbered tiles. Like I mentioned, when you get your tiles, go ahead and sort them. So separate out your suits and order them by number. Then your wins and dragons. Order doesn't matter for those. Our goal is to make 4 sets in a pair. So with the 13 tiles in our hand, we're trying to get to the point where we only need 1 more tile to win. So how should we go about that? First, see if you already have any sets. Then anything that could become a triplet or a sequence. To start out, look for adjacent tiles like this 4-5. If we ever draw a 3 or a 6, this is a completed sequence, so it's really strong because there are possibly 8 tiles out there that could complete it. Tiles with a gap between them are good as well, 5-7. If we draw a 6, this is a sequence, so there are 4 tiles that could complete it. Or if we draw one of the outside tiles, we have adjacent tiles again and we can discard the other. And look for any pairs. They could be the final pair we need, or you could turn it into a triplet. Feel free to separate out your tiles if it helps you visualize in the beginning, but eventually you won't need or want to. So every time you draw a tile, try to complete or improve your groups or create new groups. Then discard a lonely tile that's not part of any of our groups. Single wins and dragons can be good first discards, or 1s and 9s when you don't have any tiles close to them. Our goal is to eventually create 5 blocks and complete each one. Sometimes you'll draw a tile that doesn't help any groups and just discard it. Otherwise, try and make shapes that have a good chance of turning into sets best you can. And try to think about what tiles could complete your groups. Like here, a 3 character could finish this set, a west could finish this set, and a 5 or 6 bamboo could finish this set. And eventually, we'll hopefully get to the point where we only need 1 tile to have our 4 sets in a pair. like how here a 3 or a west gives us our last set and the other becomes the pair. Each player is trying to get to this point, and this is where the namesake of the game comes in. Once you only need one tile to win, call out Riichi, and discard a tile sideways. When we start keeping score, we'll also need to bet 1,000 points. Think of it kind of like calling out Uno. You're telling the table that you're 1 away from winning and you're locking in your hand. From now on, you draw, and if the tile isn't one of your winning tiles, you have to discard it. I put these gaps here just to show that either a 1 or a 4 of bamboo completes this hand. But now pay attention to the table. Along with being able to draw your winning tile, if anyone discards one of your winning tiles, you can take it and win. There's some Japanese terminology used when making calls in Riichi. To call someone's discard to win, you say ron.
Ron.
To call that you won with the tile you drew, you say tsumo.
Sumo.
After someone wins and reveals their hand, shuffle up and play again. Feel free to rotate the seat wins counterclockwise so others get the chance to be dealer. If you ever reach the point after discarding that there are 14 tiles left in the wall and nobody won, the hand is over. These remaining tiles are called the dead wall, and it'll come into play when we start keeping score. Play some hands like this and you'll all get used to the flow of the game and building hands. If you want to ease into the game when everyone's learning, feel free to remove all the character tiles from the game at first. Making hands will be slightly easier, and you won't have to worry about recognizing the characters if you don't have a numbered set. And playing a casual game with everyone's hands revealed can also be a great way to teach and learn. So to recap level 1, East starts with 14 tiles and discards a tile to start the game. Going counterclockwise, players take turns drawing and discarding a tile while trying to improve their hands. Everyone's trying to build 4 sets, triplets or sequences, and a pair. Whenever a player is 1 away from winning, they call out Riichi and discard a tile sideways.
Riichi.
This locks in their hand and lets the table know they only need 1 more tile. Once a player has called Riichi, they have to discard the tile they draw unless it's a winning tile. If they draw a winning tile, they call out Sumo and reveal their hand.
Sumo.
Or they can call out Ron and claim an opponent's discard for the win.
Ron.
After playing for a while like this, everyone should be ready for level 2. If you've played with your group at level 1 for a while, you've got a really good foundation. You can probably recognize the tiles more quickly, set up and flow through the game pretty smoothly, you know how to build towards a winning hand, and you know how to Riichi. But after a bit, you may start to think, there's not much player interaction. That's where level 2 comes in. In Riichi Mahjong, in order to win a hand, you have to have at least one win condition or unique pattern in your hand, in addition to getting your 4 sets in a pair. These are called Yaku. They're often patterns, kind of like how in poker, if you have 3 of one rank and 2 of another, you have a full house. You already know one. Riichi is a Yaku, or a win condition. It means you only drew tiles from the wall to improve your hand, and when you needed 1 more tile to win, you called Riichi and locked in your hand. It's kind of a special one and the most important to know, which is why we got comfortable with it in level 1. But the majority are based on tile patterns in your hand. And for some of them, we can take our opponent's discards during the game to make sets and try and make those patterns faster. Let's look at 4 common ones. All simples. Your hand only has numbered tiles 2 through 8. So no 1s or 9s, no dragons, and no wins. The 2 through 8 numbered tiles are called simple tiles. The 1s and 9s are called terminal tiles. So this is a winning hand with the Yaku all simples. I have my 4 sets in a pair, and all of the tiles are within the numbers 2 through 8. All triplets. All your sets are triplets, and you have a pair. Half flush. You only have 1 of the 3 suits in your hand, along with wins and or dragons. Like this. I have some wins and dragons, but otherwise I only have dots. No characters, no bamboo. And last, value triplet. You have a triplet of dragons, a triplet of your seat wind, or a triplet of the prevailing wind. Riichi is played in rounds where the prevailing wind stays the same for the whole round. For now, just say it's always east. So that's a triplet of your seat wind, or a triplet of east winds. That's why it's important to know which seat we're sitting in when we set up. The rest of your hand can be anything, but each triplet of any of these is a Yaku. You can have multiple Yaku in your hand, and when we start keeping score, you'll get more points if you do. With those in mind, in level 2, we can start taking our opponent's discards during the game. There are 2 main ways to take an opponent's discard. If anyone at the table discards a tile and you have a pair of that tile in your hand, you can call out Pon. Reveal the 2 tiles you have and complete that set, and then put them on the table face up to your right. Turn the tile you took sideways, corresponding to the opponent that discarded it. For example, if the player to my left discarded the tile I took, I'd turn it like this. Like this for the opponent opposite me at the table, and like this for the player to my right. The other way to call a set is only if the player that goes right before you discarded a tile you can use to complete a sequence. If they do, you can call out Chi, and take the tile and reveal the other 2 tiles that complete the sequence. In the same way, display the tile you took to show who you took it from, always the player to your left. Don't worry if the tiles are out of order number-wise on the table. For both Pon and Chi, when you take the tile and reveal a set, you discard a tile and the player after you continues. So yes, it's possible for your turn to get skipped if someone calls Pon and makes a triplet. If multiple people call for a discard, a person calling Ron for the win gets priority, then Pon if someone calls for a triplet, then Chi if someone called for a sequence. Making 4 of a kinds, called cons, is also possible, and comes into play more when we start keeping score. For now, if you end up with 4 of the same tile in your hand, either discard the 4th or use 3 of them as a triplet, and the 4th as part of another sequence if you can. I'll cover them more in level 4. If you ever use a discard to make a set, your hand is now considered open. If you've only drawn from the wall, your hand is closed. In order to get the Riichi Yaku like we did in level 1, your hand has to be closed. But if you think you can get one of the 4 patterns we just learned, go ahead and call for your opponent's discards and open your hand. So for level 2, gameplay will look the same as level 1. Draw and discard to improve your hand and build towards a closed hand, only needing 1 more tile to win, and call Riichi. But now, during the hand, if you think you can get a hand that has all simples, all triplets, half flush, or a value triplet, call Pon and Chi to open your hand and start making sets faster with your opponent's discards. Just remember, if you do, you give up your chance to get the Riichi Yaku. Be sure you can get one of the 4 we learned before you call a set, or you won't be allowed to win, because your hand has to have a Yaku to win. Here's what it might look like as you're playing. Oh, and all of these Yaku are in the introduction cheat sheet linked in the description. If your hand only has a few 1s, 9s, or honor tiles, you can go for all simples. Build out your sets with the numbered tiles 2 through 8 and discard your 1s, 9s, winds, and dragons. Call Chi and Pon to make sequences and triplets with only simple tiles. If as you call and discard you end up with a triplet or 2 and a couple pairs, you might choose to go for all triplets. Call Pon whenever an opponent discards a tile you have 2 of. If you have a lot of 1 suit along with some winds and dragons, maybe go for a half flush. Discard any tiles you get from the other suits, and call Pon and Chi to build sets of your suit and of the honor tiles. Value triplet is simple. If you develop a pair of dragons, your wind, or the east wind, call Pon when someone discards the 3rd tile you need. Then you can just call Chi and Pon to finish your hand in any way as fast as you can. All of these Yaku still require you to get your 4 sets in a pair, and nothing changes in level 2 for winning the hand. If someone discards the very last tile you need to finish your 4 sets in a pair, call Ron and win. If you draw it, call Sumo and win. Just remember, you have to have a Yaku, or a win condition. So you'll need to get Riichi with your closed hand, or have one of the 4 Yaku that we learned. When we start keeping score, you'll realize you won't always just want to rush for all simples, for example, because some Yaku are worth more points than others. And having a closed hand and calling Riichi can score you a lot of points. So to recap level 2, keeping a closed hand and going for Riichi is still our main/backup plan. But we learned 4 common Yaku, and how to go after them by using our opponent's discards to make sets. Calling Chi to make a sequence using the player right before us as discard. Or calling Pon to make a triplet using any player's discard. Play some games like this to get experience calling discards. Just remember, you have to have a Yaku to win. If you use an opponent's discard to make a set, your hand isn't closed anymore, so you can't call Riichi. So if you don't get one of these 4 Yaku we learned, you're stuck and you won't be allowed to win. If you've gotten to this point, I hope you're interested in giving Mahjong a try. But what should you buy if you don't have a set? Just about any Chinese set or Japanese/Riichi Mahjong set will work. A Chinese set will have some flowers and season tiles you won't use, and a Riichi set might have some red 5s which are optional to play with and just give you extra points if you have them in your hand. If you search on Amazon, the most common brand you'll probably see is Yellow Mountain Imports. They're pretty solid and I've never really had any problems with those sets. They have some numbered Chinese sets and Riichi specific sets, but I don't think they have any numbered Riichi sets, unfortunately. For Riichi sets, Amos is another popular brand. In the US, you can get them from Mahjong Stars, not sponsored, or order them on Amazon.jp and have them shipped for slightly cheaper, but you're gonna have to wait a while. This one right here is the Amos Smart Set. It comes with scoring sticks, red 5s, and a round marker. If you know you're specifically interested in Riichi Mahjong, a Japanese set with red 5s and scoring sticks can be a good option. But you can also get sticks separately if you don't have them. I'll show you how to use the scoring sticks in level 4. And if you get really into it, you can get stuff like playmats, compasses, and a bunch of other stuff. Having a mat or soft surface to play on is nice because it keeps the noise down and protects the tiles. And having one with edges is also nice to play with because you can straighten the tiles easily, and in some you can keep your scoring sticks like this. This one I have is a little hacked together and I made it myself with a neoprene mat and some wood. The one most people use is called the junk mat. It's worth noting some tiles are quite a bit bigger than others, usually the Chinese sets. It mostly comes down to preference, but it's worth noting the bigger ones might not fit on the typical Riichi mat a lot of people use. Just getting started, I recommend any set that's accessible and in your price range. I'll leave some links with some different options. But as long as you have the core 136 tiles, you'll be able to play Mahjong. You can always invest more if you get really into it. For example, this is my first set. This one I found used for like $30 in a game store while visiting a friend in Wisconsin. I started teaching myself how to play after I found it. On to level 3. We'll learn the last core rule and learn a couple more common Yaku. One of the most unique aspects of Riichi specifically is the rules allow you to play defensively and avoid giving your opponents their winning tiles. The rule is called Furiten, and the rule is simply that you're not allowed to call Ron using an opponent's discard to win if you have previously discarded a tile that could complete your hand. For example, in this hand, I can complete the hand with a 1 or 4 of dots, but earlier in the game, I discarded a 1 dot. So I'm not allowed to call Ron, even if someone drops a 4 dot. I can wait and hope I draw the winning tile myself, or change my hand so I'm no longer able to complete my hand with that 1 dot. For example, if I drew a 5, I could discard the 2, and now I'm only waiting for a 4 to win. And I'm no longer in Furiten and can call Ron again. Ron. Remember when we learned to turn the tiles sideways when we call chi or pon to show who discarded the tile? This is why. Those tiles you discarded that people took are part of your previous discards. It's not super common that you accidentally end up in Furiten, unless you changed your strategy mid-game. It may sound like a weird rule, but it's great because it lets us know which tiles our opponents can't use to win. They're not allowed to roam on anything in their discard piles. For example, if the player to my right called Riichi, I know they can't win with my tile if it's one of their discards. There are other ways to read your opponent's discards to predict what other tiles are probably safe for you to discard, but for now you know 100% that player can't win if you discard something in their discard pile. So for level 3, start trying to avoid giving your opponents their winning tiles near the end of the game. Because once we start keeping score, if you do, you'll be the one that has to pay them all the points. Along with that, let's add a couple more common Yaku to your repertoire so you're ready to score big in level 4. See if you can get some you haven't gotten before. Racing to get all simples or a value triplet gets boring, and also you won't score a ton of points once we start keeping score. First, a couple where your hand has to be closed. If you remember, that means never making sets with your opponent's discards. Pure double sequence. Get 2 of the exact same sequence in your hand. Pinfu, all sequences and a pair. The pair can't be one of the value tiles, dragons, your seat wind, the prevalent wind. And when you're waiting for your last tile, you have to be waiting on 2 tiles like this. I have all sequences and I'm waiting for a 4 or 7 of characters. 7 pairs. This is one of the very few Yaku that breaks the 4 sets and a pair rule. You just need to get 7 pairs. And a couple Yaku where your hand is allowed to be open. Terminals and honors everywhere. Every element of your hand includes at least a 1, 9, wind, or dragon. 3 colored sequences. Have the same sequence in all 3 suits. Pure straight. Have the sequences 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9 in the same suit. Full flush. Every tile in your hand is from a single suit. You'll get big points if you can get this. All of these are on the initiation cheat sheet I linked in the description. Shout out to Samuel who put these together. They're great and they're available in a bunch of languages. I've personally got a few copies laminated that we use. So to recap level 3, we added the last big rule, Furiten. You can't call Roan if you could complete your hand with a tile you previously discarded. We can use Furiten to play defensively and not discard the tiles our opponents need to win. And now we know most of the common Yaku. Take a look at the cheat sheet and see if you can get any new Yaku. And if you want to add a little competition in level 3, add up these points listed for the Yaku the winner achieves each hand, and see who can score the most over a few hands. These numbers are called the Han value of the Yaku, and we'll cover them in the final level. At this point, you're almost there, and you're probably getting decent at building your 4 sets in a pair. Here's a couple strategy tips to help you along the way. I'm no professional player or even particularly good at the game, and if you really want to get started diving into strategy on your own, definitely go read Riichi Book 1. I'll link it, and the author is generous enough to make it available for free. Alright, to start out, we want to build 5 blocks in our hand that can develop into our 4 sets in a pair. So look for patterns in your hand that could turn into sequences and triplets. Here are some shapes you can look out for or try to make when you draw new tiles. 2 tile shapes. We already know the side weight and the closed weight. The other 2 tile shape is an edge weight, 1, 2 or 8, 9 in one of the suits. Not as good as the other 2 because you can only complete it with a 3 or a 7. 3 tile shapes. Double closed. 3 tiles skipping every other tile. Either of these missing tiles makes a set for us, or the outside tiles give us a strong side weight and a closed weight. Any of our 2 tile shapes with 1 extra tile. These can turn into a triplet or a sequence. And 1 helpful 4 tile shape. 4 tiles in a row. This can turn into a straight and a pair, or a straight and a strong side weight if you get one of the side tiles. Lastly, at the very beginning of the game, you can really help your hand improve by discarding tiles that are unlikely to become sets for you. If you're looking for good options for your first discards, try discarding winds that are only valuable to your opponents. For example, if the prevailing wind is east and our seat is south, then west and north are only valuable to opponents. Lonely 1s and 9s, especially if you have a 4 or a 6 like this, because if you draw an 8 for example, the 6-8 is better than the 8-9. And other single winds and dragons. So look out for these shapes when you're building your hand and use them to work towards completing your 4 sets in a pair. And discard the lonely tiles that aren't part of any of your shapes. The final level. Keeping score adds a ton of fun and strategy to Riichi, and it's definitely the part people find the most daunting when learning. But I don't think it has to be. In this level, I'm going to cover how a full game is played with points, how to score a winning hand, and how you can boost the value of your hand. Finally, time to start using that tile we flip over when we set up. Let's get into it. Everyone starts the game with the same number of points. 30,000 is pretty common, and we use these sticks to keep track. The denominations are 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, and 100. So start everyone with 1 10,000, 3 5,000s, 4 1,000s, and 10 100s. A full game is a series of hands played over 2 rounds where everyone gets to be dealer at least once per round. In the first round, the prevailing wind is east, and in the second round, it's south. If you remember our value triplet Yaku, that means in the first round, a triplet of east winds is a Yaku for everyone, and in the second round, a triplet of south is a Yaku for everyone. If you want to play a shorter game, you can also just play 1 round. Each round goes like this. You play the first hand, and after someone wins, you score their hand, and based on that, the winner gets paid points by the other players. If East, the dealer, wins, or the hand ends in a tie and East was 1 away from winning, the seat wins stay the same and they get to be dealer again. You generally want to be dealer because you score more points if you win as dealer. Otherwise, the winds rotate counterclockwise and the next player gets to be dealer. Then another hand is played. Rinse and repeat. Once everyone has played a hand as dealer and you rotate, the south round starts. You can use a marker like this to indicate what round it is and who started the game as dealer. Continue playing hands and rotating the same way in the second round until everyone has had a chance to be dealer again. When the last player was dealer and you would rotate wins, the game's over and the player with the most points wins. After each hand, you need to score the winner's hand and determine who needs to pay what. People much more experienced than me have this memorized, but it's common to use a table to look up the payments. This is linked with the same cheat sheet we've been using. It's not too bad once you break it down. First, you look up what's called the Han value for each Yaku the winner achieved. For example, if we won after calling Riichi and got a pure straight, we get 1 Han for the Riichi and 2 Han for the pure straight. Remember, some Yaku we learned require your hand to be closed, but there are also some Yaku that are just worth more points if your hand is closed. So this hand is 3 Han. Then only if the hand is worth less than 5 Han, you have to look up what's called the mini points, or Fu. Think of this kind of like getting more points because your hand is more complex. For example, getting a triplet is more difficult than getting a sequence. So just run down this list. If you've got 7 pairs, it's exactly 25 Fu and you're done. Otherwise, you start with 20 and then add points for triplets or 4 of a kinds. This is split by open versus closed and simple versus terminal and honors. 10 points if your hand was closed and you called Ron. 2 if your hand is open and all sequences with a valueless pair. 2 if you drew the winning tile. 2 if there was only 1 tile that could complete your hand. And 2 if your pair was your seat wind, the prevailing wind, or dragons. Then round up to the nearest 10. Just run down the list and don't stress too much if you think you're a tiny bit off. For our example, we've got 20 plus 2 for an open simple triplet. Even though our hand was closed when we won, this triplet uses our opponent's tile, so it's open. And plus 10 for having a closed hand and calling Ron. 32, rounded up, 40. 3 Han, 40 Fu. Then you just look up what everyone owes and the winner gets paid. We've got 3 Han, 40 Fu, so looking at this row. If you won with Ron, look in this box, and the player that discarded the winning tile will pay this amount to you if you're the dealer, and this amount to you if you aren't the dealer. Remember that playing defensive thing? You don't want to be the person that discards the winning tile. If you won with Sumo and you're the dealer, everyone owes you this amount. Otherwise, the dealer pays this amount and everyone else this amount. So there is a risk to being dealer. If you're dealer and someone else wins by drawing the final tile, you have to pay a bigger portion. I know that's more complicated than most games, but just take a minute or two and look up the payments after each hand and it'll become second nature. Check the value of your Yaku. If it's less than 5, calculate the Fu, and then look up the payments. And if you've already played a while at the previous levels, you'll already be pretty comfortable with different Yaku. Time to talk about this tile. This is called the Dora indicator. The next tile after it in order is worth 1 extra Han for each one you have in your hand. Having it isn't a win condition, it just boosts your score. This is the order for the Dora indicators. It's on the scoring sheet as well if you forget the order of the dragons. For example, that hand we just scored was worth 5,200 points. If the Dora indicator was a 1 of characters, then each 2 of characters would be worth an extra Han, so this hand would have 6 Han instead of 3, 12,000 points. If you play with red 5s, each red 5 in your hand is worth an extra Han as well. Khan. I skipped over this until now because it's mostly a point scoring decision, but you can call and reveal 4 of a kinds just like triplets, called Khans. Whenever a player reveals a Khan, a new Dora indicator gets flipped, so it's a big risk-reward play. You could end up with more Dora in your hand, but so could your opponents. There are 3 ways to make a Khan. If you have all 4 tiles in your hand already, you can reveal what's called a closed Khan. Revealing a Khan like this doesn't affect your hand being open or closed. If you have 3 in your hand and someone discards the 4th, you can call Khan just like Pwn for triplets. And lastly, if you already called a triplet and you draw the 4th tile on your turn, you can extend your triplet to turn it into a Khan, only if you personally draw the tile. Whenever you make a 4 of a kind, you replace the extra tile by drawing from these tiles in the dead wall. Then you discard like normal and play continues. Even though it's unlikely, 4 is the maximum number of Khans that can be called during a hand. If that happens, play just continues, but no one else can call Khan anymore. The dead wall is always 14 tiles, so the hand ends if there are only 14 tiles left. This is called an exhaustive draw. If the hand does end this way, each player may reveal if they were 1 away from winning. 3,000 points get split and paid from the players not 1 away to the players who were 1 away. Riichi, the name of the game. If your hand is closed and you have other Yaku already, you don't have to call Riichi to win. But it can be one of the best ways to score points. Now that we're keeping score, when you call Riichi, you have to bet 1,000 points. Whoever wins gets all the Riichi bets. If the hand ends in a draw, the bets get added to a pot and the next person to win takes them all. But if you called Riichi and won, you potentially get some huge benefits. If you call Riichi and win before your next discard, as long as no one else called any tiles, you get another 1 Han Yaku called Ipatsu. But the biggest benefit is you get to flip all the tiles under the Dora indicators and apply them to your hand as well. So with some luck, winning after calling Riichi can boost your hand score even further. Like this, I won with Riichi. Any red dragons or 2 characters are worth an extra Han. But I also get to flip these 2 tiles underneath. So now any 4 dots or 2 dots are also worth 1 extra Han for me. And lastly, you may have noticed these blue markers on the score sheet. These Yaku are called Yakuman, and they're the highest scoring hands in the game with some crazy requirements. But get ready for everyone to freak out when someone eventually gets one. For example, big 3 dragons. Get a triplet of every dragon in your hand. Or 13 orphans. A copy of every terminal and honor tile plus 1 more of any of them. If your hand seems crazy, take a glance at the Yaku list. Maybe a Yakuman's in your future. Now I know that sounded like a lot, but the core of what we learned is this. Everyone starts with 30,000 points. When someone wins a hand, look up how many Han each Yaku they achieved is worth, and add 1 more for each Dora tile in their hand. If it's less than 5, run down this list to calculate the Fu. Then look up what everyone owes in the table. If East didn't win, then rotate the seat wins and play another hand. Otherwise, East gets to be dealer again. Everyone gets a chance to be dealer at least once per round, and after everyone has had a chance in the second round and you would rotate the wins, the game is over and the player with the most points wins. And now, when you call Riichi, you put a 1,000-point bet on the table. If you called Riichi and won, you get to flip the tiles under all the Dora indicators and apply them to your winning hand as well. You can see why scoring is usually the most daunting part of learning. But just take a minute or 2 after each hand and figure out the payments. I promise after a bit it'll become pretty easy. And hopefully with the structure of this video, you've been playing with your group at each level for a while, and it won't feel like a huge jump. Now I know it's tough to get 4 people together to play a game, much less teach them how to play a new game, which is the main reason I made this video. But you can play with 3 or even 2 people. The balance of the game feels a little different, but it's still a lot of fun. We play with 3 players all the time. For 3-player, you remove all the simple character tiles and leave the 1s and 9s. You aren't allowed to call chi, and if you draw a north wind, you're allowed to reveal it and replace it from the dead wall. Each one you reveal is a Dora, adding an extra Han to your hand's value. And because of the norths, we leave 8 replacement tiles in the dead wall instead of 4. For 2-player, you play the same as 4-player, but on your turn, if you draw a wind you don't want, you can quick discard it the first time and get another tile, just so both players get to see more tiles during the game. I'll leave links to the full setup/rules modifications for each of those in the description. And if you're by your lonesome, try to convince your friends and family again. It really is super fun to play in person. But there are a couple places you can play online as well, namely Mahjong Seoul, Riichi City, and Tenho. Tenho is the quote-unquote serious one, but it's much less user-friendly for beginners, and you need a browser add-on to translate from Japanese. But I will say playing games against the AI in these games can be a great way to get your feet wet and learn more on your own. I wanted to make this video as approachable as possible while still giving everything you need to learn how to play Riichi. And for that reason, I didn't cover a couple of rules that don't come up that often or that I thought weren't critical to know when getting started. I'll link to those in the rulebook if you're interested, and I'll try to answer any questions in the comments or make corrections if I overlooked anything. But with that, I really hope you can get a group together and start playing some Riichi. And don't feel pressured to move on to the next level right away if you're having fun. Thanks for watching.